3 ordinary objects that you might find, uncover, and discover in any American city. A stray dog, a brick, and a marble. I'd like to share with you today how these 3 objects have helped color the history of downtown San Diego. So grab each other's arm if you would, if you're close enough to the person next to you, and let's take a leisurely stroll down the streets of San Diego. First, a ship arrived in 1893. The ship pulled into San Diego port, and out hopped a dog. Underdog! No, not that dog. That was last month's speech, if you were here. This dog's name was Bum, and he had 3.5 legs. He'd been fighting with another dog on railroad tracks. Choo choo! Train came, sliced off part of his forearm. But you don't have to feel sorry for this hobo dog. He didn't have to be a hobo dog. He just liked it that way. Bum spent the next 10 years limping around San Diego and became the unofficial dog of this area, the Gaslamp district. Now, Bum was seen everywhere. You'd see him in bars, he was in restaurants. In fact, a restaurant right on 5th Street, which was the main thoroughfare, they would feed him, but not like table scraps. They gave him a big, meaty 2-inch steak when he'd come by in the evening, just full of just delicious things. And they had a huge sign outside the restaurant that said, "Bum eats here," to advertise this to their clientele. Bum also, his image was on the first official dog licenses of San Diego. A little historical fun fact for you. And he would march in the city parades. Now after 10 years, Bum passed away. And the little 6- and 7-year-old children went into town and asked for coins. And started to raise money so that they could throw Bum a proper funeral. So when you think of man's best friend, think of Bum, the hobo dog of San Diego. That's just the first story. Now, I'd like you to imagine behind me a beautiful Victorian historic hotel. Ornate, chandelier inside, 19th century glass, a dual staircase, which would cost $200,000 to refurnish later. Beautiful place. And stars like Babe Ruth and the 23rd American president, Benjamin Harrison, both slept in this hotel. Now this hotel was called the Horton Grand Hotel. It's a 131-year-old hotel. It was built in 1886, and right across from it opened another hotel called the Brooklyn Sattery. Now, the Brooklyn Sattery wasn't quite a flop house, but it definitely wasn't the caliber of the other hotel. The Brooklyn Sattery, they cater to the exact opposite echelon of the economic scale. Oh, tongue twister. In fact, they would take almost anyone. Even horses were allowed on the ground floor. Second and third floors were hotels. But the first floor was, for lack of a better word, it was a horse garage. You could bring your horse in, get the saddle refurnished, clean your horse up, fix him up, anything that were problems on your horse. But someone, you may have heard this name before, and I'll throw out to you. How many of you have heard of the name Wyatt Earp? Mm-hmm. Famous lawman. How many of you knew I came to San Diego and lived here? My tenure was 7 years. I brought my wife Josie with me as well. Well, I'm Josie. And my husband, before he came to San Diego, I never even saw him touch a drop of liquor. When we left 7 years later, he was drunk and broke, like so many men of the time. Yep, she's right. And one night, during a card game, I was drinking whiskey. I was playing cards with a fella that didn't look no good. He was cheating on cards. I knew it. Pulled my gun. Killed him. Dead. Now today, back to the tour guide. That room, 309 in the hotel, is the most requested room because they say that it's haunted by the man that Wyatt Earp shot and killed. They actually say if you stay there and you take some coins in your hands, you throw the coins and leave them on the counter there where they fell. In the morning, they will be stacked up like poker chips. Off to the third and final story. There was a woman named Madame Cora. Now, Madame Cora came from Eastern Europe. She was a Romanian gypsy fortune teller. And she didn't live in a stone brick building like the hotel that I just talked about. No. She created a place called the Marble Room. Now, originally she was a streetwalker. She worked in the red light district, and she was a common prostitute, but she went on to own one of the most luxurious and expensive brothels in San Diego, and it was called the Marble Room. Now, she would famously promenade her girls out on Sundays in horse-drawn carriages. Now, why Sundays? Because that's when the most men were out. They were with their wives and children coming home from church. She was a brilliant marketer. She would also dress up her girls very fancily in hoop dresses. It would be all one color, all green, all yellow, all red, for example. Literally not showing an inch of skin, very conservative, all the way down to the waist, all the way down to the ankle. And say a gentleman were to take a liking to the woman in the yellow dress. So he'd go to the Marble Room, he'd purchase a yellow marble. Then he'd go upstairs, he'd find the yellow door, he'd slide the yellow marble underneath the yellow door, it would open, he'd walk in, he'd spend the night. That was like his ticket. Well, in 1911, many of the red light district hotels, houses of ill repute, were being shut down. But Madame Cora, when they tried to shut her down, she said, "Stop! You can't shut me down because all I'm selling are marbles. The rest is on the house." When they began to excavate in the late 1980s of the convention center, they kept finding marbles. The workmen had no idea what was going on until a local historian stepped forward and said, "I'll tell you exactly where those marbles have come from." Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests, today I've shared a little bit about the history of San Diego. This former tantalizing, tenacious tour guide and Toastmaster have shared with you these stories, and hopefully you can share these with your friends when they visit the next time in San Diego, and you can take them down the streets of sunny San Diego. Mr. Toastmaster.